It's 1933. The United States Congress votes in favor of Philippines' independence. In Germany, Adolf Hitler becomes chancellor, and the Great Depression is affecting more and more people. In short, 1933 wasn't the best year in history. And as so often in challenging periods, people sought refuge in cheap and light-hearted entertainment. And one of these cheap and light entertainments was the reading of pulp fiction magazines. This was a fun escape from the harsh reality of life, as it didn't demand much critical thinking. Now, I'm not saying that people stop being critical because they read this magazine. No, I think both can coexist at the same time, lighthearted entertainment and critical thinking, but this video is not about that. If you want to know more, I can highly recommend you watch the video Escapism is Dead on the channel My Name is Marines. It is a very interesting analysis about this topic. I will link it in the description box below if you are interested. But in 1933, reality seeped through in the pulp magazines. How, you might wonder, and did it get better 4 decades later? And are you allowed to like books and magazines with problematic elements in them? This is Obscure Book Adventures, and I am your host, Annie. Welcome to the world of Doc Savage. Doc Savage was an extraordinary adventurer created by Lester Dent. In 1933, Street and Smith, who was the publisher of Doc Savage, was looking for another version of The Shadow, as The Shadow magazine that launched in 1930 was very successful. Why, you might ask? Well, the best way to compete is to compete with yourself and keep all the profits for yourself, and at the same time keep your actual competitors from thinking up, inventing other versions of your own creation. Now, I'm not sure if this was really the reason why Lester Dent invented Doc Savage, but this is how marketing often nowadays works. And I don't think in basic principle marketing doesn't really has changed all that much in the last century. I think only now the mediums that are used and the modern technologies only seems like marketing has changed. Well, that's what I'm thinking anyway. The Shadow was originally published in Detective Story magazine before The Shadow got his own magazine. He was this mysterious superhero who operated as some sort of vigilante in the name of justice. And The Shadow embodied just about everything the regular American could be proud of. Well, in the 1930s anyway. But in the 1930s, pulp fiction was at its peak, and pulp magazines were cheap entertainment, and publishers were happy to oblige the readers with a wide variety of pulp genres in which people could escape their daily misery. But with Doc Savage, reality crept in. I can only guess why Lester Dent created this super Aryan hero, Doc Savage. But he was a man of his time, and we can't deny the fact that there was racism in the 1930s America. So I think Lester Dent was a man of his time, and he just catered for a wide audience, a large audience, and Street and Smith, they were bound to cash in on this. The Doc Savage magazine ran for 16 years, and the Doc Savage series was rebooted back in the 1970s, and that sold over 20 million copies at the end of that decade. The first story, Doc Savage story, Doc Savage, the Man of Bronze, has so much 1930s problematic issues in it that I must admit I couldn't get past chapter 14. And now I'm going to talk about the big elephant in the room. Is it okay to like problematic books or magazines with problematic elements in them? To make it not too complicated, I will concentrate on Doc Savage, the Man of Bronze. So what are we actually talking about? In The Man of Bronze, Doc's father dies and Doc has to get his inheritance in some sort of South American country. He and, well, a bunch of brilliant scientists and other people, men with special skills, they go to this South American country to find out what his inheritance is and to claim his inheritance, in short. These sidekicks, well, they aren't really necessary, as Doc Savage, well, he is brilliant at whatever he does. He is strong. He has capabilities that are almost supernatural, some sort of superpowers. They are not actually superpowers, but they border to superpowers. And he has this intelligence, he looks good and everything. But these sidekicks, they have this fun, give the story this fun element as they get in themselves into trouble and Doc has to get them out of it. So they have a function in this story. The story structure is very straightforward. Like I said, the hero has to get his inheritance. He has to overcome a bunch of obstacles and before he reaches his goal. Everything in this story is external, but there is no personal growth in it whatsoever for none of these characters, even not for Doc Savage. But hey, never mind, it's light entertainment, it's pulp, we aren't expected to be mentally challenged anyway. So no, I don't think there's anything wrong with the story structure. For me, I had a problem with the humor of which was in this story. I don't think it aged very well. I also had a problem with the writing style, but that's just me probably. But what was funny almost a century ago, well, it seems to me to be just insulting nowadays. But that could only be me. Take for example Doc's sidekick, who looks like an ape, and he is described in a way which I can only imagine him as some sort of caricature of a man. And no, no, no. And there's this Spaniard who looks like this stereotypical devil kind of fellow. Well, no, this joke, this joke is not okay. In 2025, no. Anyway, and there are these Mayas. Granted, they are described as to have this higher intelligence and to be more cultured. They are of this higher culture, these Mayans, than the Americans of the 1930s. Granted, Doc Savage mentions this, but oh, wait, all these intelligence Mayas, they have gone extinct, and only the stupid ones have survived. Right? So there goes evolution out of the window. So what about the writing style? Well, it might appeal to you, but I found it really too repetitious, I must admit. We are constantly reminded how great and magnificent Doc Savage is. He has this bronze appearance. We are constantly reminded of it. It can be seen as some sort of a running gag, but even for a running gag, it was a little bit too much for me. And we are constantly reminded of who the sidekicks are, what their speciality is, what they look like. Don't get me wrong, I do appreciate it when a story has many characters. I do like it to be reminded once in a while who is who. But this was, well, for me, it was way too much. First, I thought it was satire, but on second thought, I don't think it was, because there is little to none society critical humor in it. Doc Savage is all for colonialism, it seems, but I do think it's more meant as a parody on the superhero genre, as we are constantly, well, like I said, constantly reminded of all of the great abilities of Doc Savage and his good looks and brilliance and strength and such things. Now, I don't know much about Superman or superheroes in general. I'm no expert on that. If you want to know more about superheroes, I think Michael K. Vaughan's channel is the right channel. He can tell you all about superheroes, but not me. But as I remember correctly, Superman, well, isn't he also very much admired by the people? So maybe Doc Savage was more of a parody on Superman and the like. Those kinds of superheroes. Maybe there's something to research in another video. But back to the question, is it okay to like these kinds of stories and these kinds of novels? Well, I think the racism in Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze, is abundantly clear. It's hard to miss. So I think because of this, that it's less likely to be harmful for adult readers anyway. I think. If you think racism is bad, and I think all of us probably do, and then you are not becoming a racist if you like these kinds of stories, or if you like to read this kind of stories, because there is much more to be appreciated. Like I said, the story structure, the dialogues, the storytelling technique. You can enjoy that. And I think it's interesting from a historical perspective as well. And there is also a lot to be learned for writers as well. When this goes for all of the novels we read, we have to take into account the time it was written in, and we can improve. Writers can improve. We can learn from the good things in these kinds of stories, and we can improve upon them. So I don't think we need to throw away the child with the bathtub water. I don't know if this is an English expression, but you get my drift. So how did The Man of Bronze fare 4 decades later in the film adaptation? Well, because it's Filmtastic February, a film reading event I am hosting with Roy over at Roy Reads Anything and Duncan at Backaway from the Donkey. I will link their channels in the description box below. I am talking about Dog Savage, The Man of Bronze, as in 1975 it was adapted for a film, a cinema film. And the prompt for week 1 for Filmtastic February is novel turned into a film. So the 1975 adaptation should be better, right? Times must have changed, right? Well, yes, time did change. There was no segregation anymore, and public opinion changed, and people realized the Ku Klux Klan were a bad lot, and the blaxploitation was invented. So script writers Joe Horheim and George Paul left out a lot of the problematic stuff that was in the original story. Now, I must stress that I only read the original story until chapter 14, but I did watch the entire film. But leaving out the most obvious 1930s problematic elements made the film worse, as the problematic stuff that was left in was more subtle, and it was less easier to detect. Well, you might say, well, nowadays we are so many decades later, we can obviously see what the problems in the film are, but I need to go into a little bit of a spoilery bit to point out what these problematic issues are in this 1975 film. Director Michael Anderson's Dog Savage is and remains your stereotypical Aryan, of which Leni Riefenstahl could be proud. And even in 1975, a time where colonialism was way far past its peak, the film supports colonialism. And now I have to really go into a spoiler warning. In the original story, Dog has to go to this South American country to claim his inheritance, which appears to be golden land on which the Mayas live. And in the end, as expected, Doc Savage saves the day, and the chief of the Mayas is so grateful that he gives all his gold, all of the gold, and all of the land to Doc Savage. Then he gives everything away. Now, I do understand that he is grateful for Doc Savage, but giving away everything you have, and not only that, but Doc Savage accepting all these gifts, all these things, without any problem, and like it's always been rightfully his. Well, I think that could be seen as a problematic issue nowadays. Yes, Doc Savage sees to it that the Mayas do get to keep a share of their what they own, but the Mayas don't get to decide what happens to the money, how the money is invested, or how the money is spent. No, Doc Savage sees to it that he takes care of the money the Mayas get to keep. So no, well, these Mayas, they're not stupid. But yeah, so I think that's a problematic thing. Another problematic thing, I think, is in the end the villain is caught, and instead of him being brought to justice, he is sent to this private clinic, Doc Hash. He is treated with acupuncture, and this acupuncture treatment removes the evil and criminal element in his brain. So, people are born evil? People are born criminal? Well, I don't agree with this at all. No. Yes, there are people who are born with, how shall I put it, a disease or a mental defect or I don't know how to put it, but I'm thinking of psychopaths, sociopaths. They can't help being that way. But I read a couple of years ago an article in a scientific magazine that said there was research done and that there was a way to treat sociopaths so that there is no cure, but they can live with their problem, so to speak. Okay, there are different degrees in sociopath, but there is a way to treat it. So maybe in the future we can treat psychopaths as well. So we don't have to put them in prison anymore, and maybe we can detect children earlier who have these kinds of problems. No, I don't think people are born evil or are born criminal. No, I just think that we need to help criminals, people who commit crimes. We need to help them get back on track. Yeah. So I think the Man of Bronze film can do more harm than the novel, as the problematic issues are more subtle. But like I said, I think these issues are probably going to be obvious in the near future, if not now already. So and we need to keep reflecting on books, films and TV series, and we need to involve as writers, filmmakers, and we need to improve on the old stuff. But we don't need to overthink things too much I think. Sometimes a spade is just a spade. The positive thing about this film is that it can be entertaining at times, but overall it's a badly produced film. It's poorly edited, the shots are way too long, the scenes drag on a bit, everything seems to be longer than it needs to be, the pacing is off, and that's probably why most jokes don't work. They try to solve it by putting music underneath it in the film that's supposed to be funny, but it's just not helping. So it's probably not a film many people will watch anyway. Maybe this film could become historical interesting from a historical perspective in a couple of decades, but I doubt it. So no, I don't think for decades between the original novel and the film helped a lot to change the overall attitude. But I acknowledge the fact that the Doc Savage character is an interesting one. He has a lot of interesting characteristics and abilities. The only thing that is lacking, in my opinion, is something that makes him more human, a character flaw maybe, or a weak spot or something. But maybe that's something for a writer to explore in the future. As I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Doc Savage will be in the public domain in 4 years or so. So maybe there will be in about 4 years more interesting Doc Savage stories written by modern writers. I will be looking forward to that anyway. There's one aspect I haven't talked about, and that is the Doc Savage comics. There are Doc Savage comics. I think there were Doc Savage comics published in 1966. As far as I know, in 1972 there was one published, and DC Comics did a miniseries published between 1987 and 1990. Millennium Productions and Dark Horse Comics also published Doc Savage comics. And in 2013, Dynamite Entertainment published their own version of Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze, and that was written by Chris Robertson with artwork by Bilquis Everly and Alex Ross. I haven't read any of them, so I'm curious if you have read any of these Doc Savage comics, because I would be interested to know if they are any good and if they are interesting. So let me know in the comments. Do you have other views or opinions about Doc Savage? I would be highly interested to read them in the comments below.